Nick with McGaughys Suspension. I'm over here at another one of our authorized dealers, Signature Performance on Harbor Boulevard in Costa Mesa. They just finished up this really nice 2024 GMC AT4 HD truck with our 4-inch kit underneath it. So I wanted to take the opportunity to show you guys how this truck came out and give you some details on it. It's a very hot, popular item right now. A lot of people have been asking us a lot of questions, and obviously the fine tuning of the tire and wheel package and the fitment and the ride height is really the biggest thing that people have questions about and are trying to confirm what they're gonna get when they buy our product. So we're gonna go over this truck and show you guys exactly how it looks underneath it and on outside, and go over some of the specs, not just the wheel and tire sides, but like actual ride height specs. And we'll talk about the bed rail as well and the roof height, because I know some of you guys are trying to fit these trucks in your garage or possibly underneath a fifth wheel or gooseneck trailer, because you're using these trucks on the typical reasons why you buy these trucks. So real quick here, we'll start off with the suspension. It is our 4-inch HD kit for the 2500s, and it is set up at 4.5 inches. And the way that we're determining that is the ride height measurement between the center hub and the fender. At 4 inches, it would, these trucks, just back up real quick here, these trucks are coming off the showroom floor at 24 inches, measuring from that center hub to the fender. So with our 4-inch kit, obviously you would be sitting at 28 inches. And then because this one's a little bit higher, we're gonna mark it at a 4.5 inch range, which is 28.5 inches of center hub to fender. On the rear, the center hub to fender is at 27.5 inches, and it is only utilizing our 1 3/4 rear block and U-bolt kit. No extra shims or anything like that. I'll show you guys the rear real quick here. As you can see, there's no shims. It's just our 1 3/4 rear block. Obviously, our custom valve shocks that we make in-house and have done a lot of development on these trucks. If you order a 2500 kit or a 3500 kit, the shocks will be differently valved because of the two different types of model trucks. 3500s are stiffer because they offer more payload, so the shocks are going to be valved for that. Let's look underneath the front here. Again, 4.5 inches of ride height. Look at those angles. These angles right here, when I talk about angles, I'm talking about the lower control arm, the CV shaft, the tie rod joint, and the ball joints. Those all right there are at a nice horizontal level plane, similar to what you would see when the truck came off the showroom floor from the dealership. So that's telling us that we have adequate amount of droop travel, downwards travel, dropout travel, and compression travel at ride height. Similar, basically the same as what the truck came off the showroom floor, how GM developed this truck, this truck to have the suspension set up. So we have not altered the ride height, as in stretching out the limitations of the suspension travel. All we did was add our 4-inch lift kit, which dropped the crossmember down exactly 4 inches. The lower control arms dropped down, the differentials dropped down. All that is dropped down 4 inches to equalize everything. Another note to mention here, as you can see, this factory upper bolt and our new bolt that is on our crossmember is straight up and down. That means that there is no track width gain or push out on the front end of this truck. So how it was factory, the width is the same with the lift kit, which is a big deal when we come into tire and wheel fitment. So just showing you guys right there underneath. We'll look at the upper control arm area, and if you notice here, we have adequate amount of droop travel. That control arm does not necessarily hit that service perch, but just seeing that much space in between there is a positive thing. And let alone you look at this ball joint, and this ball joint is at a nice relaxed point. That means it has full articulation for droop travel and compression travel without maxing out and basically creating a bind or a load in that area. Same over here as well. That's gonna give you a good ride. A lot of times you'll see trucks where they're leveled or they just have their suspension cranked up on these GM trucks, because you can adjust the ride height, but a lot of times they're adjusted too far in ride height. And yes, some people might say, okay, well, I gained more ride height. I bought a 4-inch kit and I gained, you know, more ride height out of it. Well, that sounds great on the outside, or looks great on the outside, but then you jeopardize your ride quality, because then you limit your droop travel and you put things at a bind. So this truck at 4.5 inches still has everything in a great relaxed position, just like you would see factory. Again, our M84 in-house series shocks that we make in-house, and valve in-house, a lot of development in-house. These are not something that we are getting from overseas. This is, they are made in-house at our facility. I want to note also, while I'm talking about this, I want to note on this install here, something that I don't see all the time when I go to view a lot of these trucks, whether they've already been built and the owner has it or they're at a shop. But one thing that Signature did, which was great, you can notice right away, the CV shaft, the factory CV shaft, they painted that. And those come raw from GM. So off the showroom floor, when you look at your truck, you'll notice brand new off the showroom floor, those are raw. And then if you notice in there, the diff on the passenger side, that would also be raw as well, and they painted all that. So it just gives a better final look of the install. And let alone after you get, you know, all excited that your truck is all lifted, you don't have all these factory parts hanging down that are getting, you know, have a bunch of surface rust on them. You'll be amazed. You'll go underneath your truck, brand new truck, and you'll see that already happening. You just don't notice it, because when the truck is stock height, you don't see underneath it. So I wanted to point that out. I think that's really great, and I always like to give credit to installers that take a little bit extra time. You know, customer comes in with, you know, $80,000 to $100,000 truck, and they charge them X amount to install everything. Yes, all the bolts are tight. Yes, it's done, you know, safely and correctly of an install. But those are the little things that stand out. So I wanted to point that out and give kudos to Signature for their final results of how it all looks. Let's talk about the wheel and tire package. So these are 37-1250 Nitto Ridge Grapplers, and they're wrapped on a set of TIS wheels in a 20x9, which they're a 0 offset, which equals 5 inches of backspace. So if you'll notice here, when you look down the side, you got a little bit of poke out, just a hint. Just basically the tire bulge is poking out past the fender. So that is something that's significant that I want to point out here, because a lot of times when people are trying to set up our 4-inch kits, just like this guy actually reached out to me on social media, and he, you know, wanted to have his truck built just like our black GMC that we, you know, show all the time, that's running 37-1250s on an 18-inch wheel. And that truck has no trimming, mind you. And that truck has a 5.75 backspace wheel, 18x9. So that wheel that we use on our shop truck is sucked inwards. The whole tire and wheel is inwards more by almost basically 3/4 of an inch. So just with that 3/4 of an inch push out, same width, same tire, same exact tire, because we use that same tire on our truck, but just that 3/4 inch of basically poking out, that changed the dynamic of how much trimming had to be involved for this truck to be set up at 4.5 inches. Our truck is at 4 inches with no trimming and the factory mudguard in place. But because of that 3/4 of an inch push stepping outwards of the wheel well, stepping outwards, that increased how much this tire, when you turn left or right, how much it turns and pivots and swings inwards. So if you notice here, this truck has a modifications done to it. This modification right here is what they call a tieback bracket, and Signature installed that bracket, and then they sold him a set of Fender Mudflap deletes, which these are caps. So these replace the factory ones that hang down tremendously low, and they tuck them up nice and tight. So you can see here, it looks really clean. So the modification that they did to it is underneath that cap and utilizing that pullback bracket. And what that does is it allows the tire to swing in here and clear this edge past this area. Otherwise, the factory would have been out here and you would have had interruption with that tire. Same thing up front here. Up front here, a lot of people I always hear, hey, I'll make them fit. You know, oh, just a little bit. It doesn't take that much. But the thing that you have to remember on these HD trucks with the diesels is that you have this little plug port right here. So you can only modify so far until you start interrupting this. And sure, they sell bumper spacers that push out the bumpers, but then that changes the look and whatnot. So it all depends on what you're acceptable to. But this truck right here has no bumper spacer. It's factory. You see the line continues down here. And then what was done is you usually have a little metal bracket right about here. The lower valance was cut and sliced right beyond that bracket, so that bracket was deleted, and then from there they radiused it nice and not, you know, just a nice radius all the way up right here. Okay, if you notice on the inside, and then that's a factory bracket, those two mounting positions, and that bracket is now pushed forward to create some space, and then the felt, the liner, was sliced up higher. You're sitting at probably about, from this bolt down, it's probably about 1 3/4 inches, I want to say. That's how far up they slice it, and then they just curved it down. So then the plug was still covered right there on the inside. So that's the modification that I took to fit these tires and wheels underneath the truck. I talked to a lot of guys that don't pay attention. They just say, oh, I've heard 37 1250s on a, you know, 9-inch wide wheel fits underneath these trucks. Yes, it does, but you got to pay attention to the poke, how much the offset is that pokes out compared to it sucked in. Our black truck is completely underneath the fender because it's a 18x9 5 3/4 backspace wheel, and this one's a 20x9 with 5 inches of backspace. If you guys get mixed up with any of these numbers, I'm going to write these down in the description so you can always go back to that as your, you know, simple notes list of all the measurements that I go over, roof height and everything that I go over on this truck. So I wanted to go in a little bit of detail about this tire and wheel package and what it took to fit those, because that is a very, very, very common question. And with that question, the results that you get are going to vary on the tire and wheel, really the wheel that you pick. I see guys, they just overlook that offset situation, how far out it pushes. They don't think it's a big deal, but it surely becomes a really big deal when you're modifying the fenders on your brand new truck. So be wise to that. And if you got any questions, you can always feel free to DM us on any of the social media pages. I would say that you are most certainly happy to, you know, comment down below. I want you to do that. I'll try to keep up with that as much as possible and answer back to everyone. But because the way that, you know, YouTube is formatted, it's really hard to keep track of all those comments. So if by chance your comment goes, you know, blind without being, you know, answered back to you, you can always reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Again, 37 1250 Ridge Grappler out back with a TIS 20x9, 0 offset, 5-inch backspace wheel. No issues in the rear here. The customer did opt to go for the fender lower caps that tuck them up higher and delete that mud guard that hangs down. Just cleaner look. Not really an issue with it fitting or rubbing necessarily, other than just looks. And it's a good looking wheel. I'll get a little bit more detailed here. It's a good looking wheel. It's like a satin finish, and it's just got a good look to it. Obviously that, you know, simulated beadlock kind of, you know, off-road look to it. And being a 20, it's got a good amount of wheel and a good amount of sidewall. I would say that this is probably a good compromise to a guy that wants still to drive around and ride real nice. You'll have a good amount of sidewall still left to ride nice, because you have a lot of tire to cush. When you start going to 22s and 24s and everything else in between, just know the lift kit, the shocks ride real nice, but you basically go against the grain, and you're fighting a good ride quality because the wheel is so large. more than likely, if you're buying wheels and setting your truck up with wheels like that, you totally understand that and you're willing to just roll the dice and go along with that. But if you want a better ride, if you're here to understand how to get a better ride, it all comes down to the height not being stretched out. This is sitting at 4.5 inches. And then obviously your wheel and tire package, keeping a good amount of sidewall to allow for absorption going down the road. This truck they installed a back, I think it's called a back flip or something like that. The tonneau cover flips and opens up. So that's a cool little addition to, you can't really see it until I obviously move the camera up high. Other than that, this thing is pretty much stock. It already came with the electric running boards on it. Since we're right here, I'm going to show something else that I got to give kudos to Signature for. So those are factory. But when I opened up the truck and I was getting in to move it, I noticed that this is their little worksheet for the installer. Well, the installer, as he opened up all the boxes from McGaughys, he put all the stickers in the little packet, and that's all going to be given to the owner of the truck, which is great because I always get DMs. Hey, can I get stickers? I'm like, well, didn't you get them in your box? The installer didn't give them to me. How can I get more? And you have to reach out to us. But if you didn't get stickers, you can always email us or call us and we'll mail you out some stickers. But kudos again for the installation, those little fine things that make a difference and make people happy. Man, this truck looks great. I'm super happy with it. Really exciting. I like this gray. The gray really is a really nice color. Let's give you some statistics on if you want to try to put this thing in your garage. The overall height, and I'm basically saying overall height is measuring from about right here to the top of the cab to clear that antenna. We're talking 86 inches, okay? 86 inches of overall height. And then on the bed rail, let's see if you're trying to, work with a fifth wheel trailer or a gooseneck or something like that. The bed rails are 61 inches, 61.25 inches. And I'm measuring right here at center hub of the wheel, okay? And on the rear, just because the bed, if you drop the tailgate, and the bed height is 42 inches. If you need to know that for like a slide-in camper or something like that. Like again, I'll say, I'll put all the dimensions down in the description just to help you guys out, but just going over them inside the video real quickly here. This truck is ready to go. Customer's picking it up today, and I rushed down here to get some video to be able to show you guys. If you guys have any questions, like I said, please reach out to me. Instagram or Facebook is the best, and shoot over your questions. I am super happy to help anyone figure out if this is the right kit for you. Obviously, it sounds kind of weird. 4 inches should be a pretty straight hole-in-one. But honestly, not every 4-inch lift kit is designed the same and or has the same characteristics of what you get out of the install and the final results. But we are really trying to favor to the guys that are buying these high-dollar trucks and trying to use them for all the typical truck uses. Daily driving to the river, pulling a fifth wheel out to the desert, going up in the mountains, doing any of the common truck use. We don't want you to be able to need or feel that you need to leave your truck at home because your truck is now built to something that you can't utilize to the fullest. Our 4-inch kit is developed for that type of customer in mind, and ride quality, and let alone longevity as well. There's a lot of other things about our kit with the whole setup of the ride height and stuff like that is deterring away from wear and tear on the front of the truck as well as ride quality. Another thing to note too, if you are looking to have this kit installed, our 4-inch kit is, from what I understand, the least amount of cutting or modifications to the frame out of any of the kits on the market. Installers already have been telling me that it's an easier install, it flows real nice and easy, and they've been really happy with it. So we'll just walk around it here real quick and just let you guys see it. I know I've had a lot to talk about within this video, but if I was gonna build a truck myself personally, this is how I would build it. Just like this, 4-inch kit, upper control arms. I think maybe real quick, I think maybe that might be one quick thing that I forgot to do. This is our 4-inch kit. I did say it had upper control arms, but I will note that he did add the ball joint caps up front. But other than that, those are the 3 part numbers that are utilized from McGaughys to build this truck. It looks a little nose high, like sitting here right now, but I will tell you, I measured those wheel wells out, and then on the ground, just because you want to get like a understanding of how it's pitched. In the rear is 28. Let me see real quick here. Yeah, 28 and a half. Now that was the center hub, the Fender. I don't have the measurements. Forgive me. I thought I wrote them down on my hand, but I didn't. So, but I did measure them. And at the front of the cab, we were an inch lower on the cab pinch weld to the rear of the cab pinch weld. We're an inch lower in the front, so meaning an inch higher in the rear. If you guys have any questions, let us know. Thanks for watching, as always, and I hope to see you guys on the next video.